If you combine a low-calorie diet with low-quality food, you have a recipe for poor health. For a while now in the health and fitness space, there's been this debate between quality versus quantity in terms of diet efficacy and which is more important. Personally, I feel like this is the wrong discussion to be having. I think we're looking at food in the completely wrong way. We're looking at it purely as weight gain or weight loss method. We need to be looking at things as actually food instead of calories. Food in itself is an energy source. It sustains and enhances our lives. Food can be a social, historical, cultural activity. So I think the discussion to be having is that there's more to food than just calories in and calories out. Calories themselves were only founded in like the 1800s. So what were people doing before then? Was obesity such a problem back then that people needed to count calories all the time? Probably not. There's a whole host of social, cultural factors that play into that. You mentioned motor vehicles, apps and phones and technology that makes it easier for us to stay in one place and be less active. So we're fighting an uphill battle in today's climate. But what we're really getting at here is that it's not essential to count calories all the time. In fact, it's probably detriment to your life and your enjoyment of life to be constantly looking at food as calories and not just something to be enjoyed. So one of the goals we have for our clients when they begin, if they've done calorie counting or crash dieting or 12-week transformations in the past, is to start looking at food differently. Because counting calories, being really restrictive all the time, being super focused on what you're eating can actually lead to a pretty detrimental relationship with food and lead to signs or symptoms of disordered eating. If the goal is to lose weight or gain weight, yes, calories are useful, but they're not essential to be dogmatic over all the time. Let's say you want to go into a calorie deficit, lose a little bit of weight. Here are some considerations we think you should make. Number one, sleep. If you're not getting at least 7 to 8 hours a night, your body is fighting against you. It is fighting hunger signals, mental acuity, like you don't have the energy and the focus to make good, healthy, conscious decisions all the time. You're also fighting an uphill battle against cortisol, which rises when you don't get enough sleep. So sleep is paramount to the beginning of a healthy diet. Time is another factor. The fitness industry has just pushed the calorie deficit term as the silver bullet. Unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. There's a really good set of grounded principles that we teach our clients around eating, but being in a calorie deficit forever is just not going to work with you. If you think about it logically, let's say you need to take 200 to 500 calories away from your baseline to start losing weight. Well, as you lose weight, you get lighter and lighter, and your baseline calories gets lower and lower. Are you going to continue to just take off 200 to 500 calories all the time until you weigh 0 kilos and you have no calories in the day? Probably not. The problem then arises when people are in a calorie deficit or they're too restrictive for too long. Their body detects this and goes into a starvation or protection mode. If you're starving your body of nutrients and calories, it's going to hold on to energy wherever it can get it. And what stores the most energy in the body? Unfortunately, it's fat tissue, adipose tissue. So your body's going to hold on to fat when it feels you restricting it. This is why initially people make really good progress. The calorie deficit works for a short period of time, but without an appropriate refeed to boost the metabolism, unfortunately progress stalls and people plateau and lose motivation. Any good nutrition coach will tell you that calorie deficits should be kept to a short period of time, maybe 2 to 6 weeks depending on the athlete, but it should always be followed by a diet break or a refeed to make sure that you're keeping yourself moving forward. So, like we mentioned, whilst it's not essential to look at calories all the time, it can be a really practical tool to have someone guide your nutrition and structure it for you and tell you exactly what you need to do at the right times. Long-term restrictive eating can also lead to rebounds and binges and a really unhealthy relationship with food. The final consideration that we would probably want to look at is tactics. So, principle of weight loss would be a calorie deficit, and underneath that we need a strategy and a tactic. So how are we going to achieve the calorie deficit? What are the specific things that we're going to do daily to achieve that goal? Consider that a calorie deficit also impacts your hormone level and your mental acuity. So you're going to be low on certain hormones like testosterone or estrogen, and you're going to have like low focus, low mood generally speaking through the day. So consider, is it worth it? So it would be probably misguided to do a nutrition video without talking about keto and intermittent fasting and why these seem to be really ethical diets or why they seem to work really well. Let's not lie. People have got some really great results from following a ketogenic diet, practicing intermittent fasting. So it would be wrong to say these diets don't work. For some people, they can be really effective. For a lot of people who try these diets, they mentioned feeling more mentally alert, better energy during the day, and they feel like it's a diet diet that's pretty sustainable because it's not overly restrictive. Unfortunately, when people see the results of these two diets, they attribute it to some magic factor, like some magic fat burning trigger. And unfortunately, that's not how the body works. People are quick to attach some sort of idea to this success, but in reality, factors that are highly associated with weight gain are emotional eating, boredom eating, snacking, stress eating. Factors that are really commonly associated with good weight management and good relationships with food are eating 3 square meals a day for fulfillment and less snacking during the day. If you look at these diets, intermittent fasting restricts the window of time that you can eat in, so naturally you're not going to have as much time for snacking. You're probably going to have 2 full meals, maybe 3 full meals in that shortened window of eating. The same with a ketogenic diet. If you take away carbohydrates, you have to make the rest of your diet up from protein and fats, which have a really high thermic effect, take a longer time to digest, so keep you fuller for longer, so you don't necessarily feel the need to snack all the time. The second thing with keto is there's not a whole lot of high fat, high protein snacks out there. So if you remove carbohydrates, you remove a lot of snacking options from your diet as well. That is potentially the reason why these two diets are so successful. So unfortunately, there's no magic fat burning science to keto or intermittent fasting. It's just a more structured way of keeping people on a healthy nutrition plan. There are some considerations you want to make with keto and intermittent fasting in terms of your hormone health. If it works for you, great. Our motto generally with nutrition is, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But if you're having problems, you may want to look at switching something. So to recap on those two diets, whole meals, less snacking. That's where we tend to start a lot of people in their nutrition journey. It makes it so much easier to stick to macros once we have a good foundation of skills like cooking your own food, having good food hygiene in terms of taking time to sit down with a meal, no screens, trying to eat with other people, chewing your food and being really conscious of what you're eating whole meals and snacking less. Really good basics that allow you to keep to your calorie deficit for longer. So to summarize in the whole quality versus quantity debate, yes, food quantity is how you adjust for weight loss and weight gain, but there's so much underneath it in terms of the skills of eating, the skills of good nutrition that you need to have first. Otherwise, you're going to find the calories in, calories out really, really hard to control. So yes, there's validity to the quantity of food you're eating. Absolutely. The quality of food you're eating is going to determine how easy it is to sustain that calorie deficit or sustain that calorie surplus. So to summarize briefly, calorie deficits are much harder to maintain on lower quality diets. If you combine a low calorie diet with low quality food, you have a recipe for poor health. So we hope this video shed some light on the quality versus quantity debate in nutrition. Hope it shed some light on some of the tactics that you can use moving forward and the skills you need to develop for your nutrition to be successful. If you need a little bit more guidance with developing good nutrition skills or working out where you're at with your nutrition, head to our website, fill out our contact form. You can get a consultation with our coach to determine your level of nutrition skill and a plan for you to be successful with your diet long term. We hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Until next week, take care.